The stars hung quiet above the battlefield. 1,000 alien ships floated in the dark, their engines glowing faintly as they held position. The fleet stretched as far as the eye could see, row after row of armored war vessels, ready to bring fire and destruction. To the aliens, this was not just another battle. This was the day they would finally crush humanity. Inside the command ships, alien leaders stood tall, their screens showing endless data, their soldiers prepared with sharp precision. Their generals whispered victory before the fight had even begun. Confidence filled the fleet like a heavy perfume. The humans had taken too long to arrive, and that delay made the aliens certain of their weakness. Still, under all that pride, there was unease. A whisper moved among the lower officers, a fear too quiet to voice aloud. Where are the humans? Why are they late? For hours, the alien fleet had waited. They circled the planet below, its surface scarred from earlier skirmishes. They watched the cities burn and the skies fill with smoke. They thought they had time, they thought they had already won, but every moment of silence pressed down heavier. On one observation deck, a young alien soldier gazed into the void. His commander's voice boomed with confidence, but the soldier's hands shook. He had heard stories. Everyone had stories about humans, Deathworlders they were called. Beings born on a planet so cruel that survival itself was a daily battle. Creatures who grew stronger from pain, who thrived where others would die. The soldier prayed, those stories were lies. The command channel crackled. Still no human fleet detected, reported a calm officer. The alien generals smirked. One laughed loudly, his voice echoing through the chamber. Perhaps they finally learned fear. Perhaps they know they cannot stand against us. The laughter spread, but not everyone joined. In the corners of the room, some remained silent, eyes locked on the endless dark beyond the scanners. The waiting grew heavier. The aliens had prepared speeches of victory, celebrations of conquest, but each passing minute without the humans made those words feel hollow. The silence was unnatural, pressing into every mind. Even the bravest warriors felt it. In the great council ship, one elder alien spoke softly. Do not mistake silence for weakness. Humans, they are never still, without reason. His words were ignored, brushed aside as caution from an old voice. Yet his eyes remained on the void unblinking. The fleet prepared weapons anyway, lining up their cannons and charging their engines. The planet below was already marked for domination. The humans were late, the aliens were sure. The outcome was sealed. And then it happened. The sensors beeped. A small sound at first, almost lost in the hum of machines. Then it grew sharper, louder. Officers leaned closer to their screens, their faces changed. Confidence faded into confusion. Unidentified signatures detected. One whispered. In the void, shadows appeared. They came slowly, one by one, breaking through the silence. Ships, human ships that were fewer than the alien armada, but each one carried scars of war. Their hulls were blackened, their edges sharp. They moved not like prey, but like predators. Silent, cold, patient. The alien generals froze, their voices caught in their throats. The humans had arrived. The young soldier on the observation deck felt his chest tighten. His prayers had not been answered. The stories were not lies. He was seeing them with his own eyes now. Deathworlders. The silence that followed was worse than any roar of engines. The humans said nothing. They sent no greeting, no warning, no message at all. Their ships simply took position, forming patterns that no alien mind could fully understand. Their silence was a weapon, heavy and suffocating. In the alien fleet, laughter died, confidence cracked. Officers shifted uncomfortably. The unease that had whispered in the corners now spread like fire. The elder alien whispered again, his voice trembling. They are here, and they have come to fight. No one answered him. All eyes remained locked on the human fleet, on the black shapes cutting through the stars. The gathering silence had ended. Something far worse had begun. The humans had entered the battlefield, and the aliens, for the first time, felt the stirrings of fear. The alien fleet hung in orbit, weapons ready, engines burning steady blue trails into the void. Their commanders gave orders in clipped voices, but the tension beneath the words betrayed their fear. The silence of space was no longer empty. It was alive with something heavy, something unseen yet undeniable. The humans were here. At first, it was only faint lights on long-range scans, dots that flickered against the endless black. The alien officers leaned close to their screens, whispering nervously. The signals were strange, too sharp, too precise. Then the darkness split apart, and human ships emerged one after another, sliding out of hyperspace like predators stepping From shadow, the aliens stared. They had expected chaotic vessels, crude and weak. What they saw were war machines, black and scarred, moving with slow purpose. They were fewer in number, far fewer than the alien armada, but their presence made the void feel smaller. Each ship carried the weight of battles already fought, each scar on their hulls proof that they had faced fire before and survived. On the alien command bridge, voices rose. Count them. One general barked. Identify the formation. But the screens showed patterns that made no sense. The humans were not scattered, nor were they lined in traditional formations. They moved like hunters, their paths weaving together into shapes the alien strategists could not predict. This is no fleet, whispered one officer. This is a pack. The alien generals sneered, but their eyes betrayed unease. Numbers were on their side. Their fleet stretched across the stars. Yet something in the way the humans moved cut into that confidence like a blade. The first human ship turned slowly, revealing its insignia stark symbol burned into dark metal. It was not meant to inspire beauty. It was meant to inspire fear. The alien soldiers, watching from their stations, shifted uncomfortably. The young soldier who had prayed earlier felt his throat go dry. These were not creatures running to their deaths. They were calm, silent, almost patient, as if they knew exactly what awaited them and welcomed it. The human fleet gave no warning, no demand for surrender, no call for mercy. They simply came, closer, step by step, ship by ship, their silence louder than any war cry. Alien leaders exchanged nervous glances. Some barked orders, filling the air with bluster to mask their growing doubt. Prepare weapons, keep formation. We outnumber them 10 to 1. Their words rang hollow, drowned out by the tension pressing into every mind. In the observation decks, alien civilians and minor officers gathered to watch. Their breaths caught as the first wave of human ships aligned. The sleek, brutal lines of the vessels gleamed under starlight, weapons glowing faintly as they powered. The humans still did not fire, still no signal, only silence. The silence became unbearable. Every alien eye fixed on the humans, waiting for the first move. Some hoped for diplomacy, others braced for fire. All felt the same weight in their chests, weight of dread. And then, without a sound, the humans shifted again. Their ships curved around the alien armada, not breaking formation, not hesitating. They moved with such control that even the most seasoned generals struggled to follow their pattern. That it was not chaos, it was calculation. One alien commander gritted his teeth. They're testing us, he muttered. They're measuring the... Realization rippled through the command crews. The humans were studying the armada, watching every move, searching for weakness. And they did it openly, without fear. In the council chamber of the fleet's flagship, the highest-ranking leaders gathered. Their voices rose in argument. Attack now, one shouted. Do not let them circle us. Another snapped back. And waste our advantage. We must wait for them to break first. The debate grew heated, but beneath it all ran the same thread of doubt. What if the humans did not break at all? On the ground below, soldiers of the alien army looked up at the sky. The glow of ships reflected against the smoke of ruined cities. Many had never seen humans before. Now, watching their ships move with grim precision, they whispered in fear. Children clung to their parents, asking questions no one could answer. The young alien soldier on the observation deck leaned forward, his heart pounding. For a moment, he thought he saw the human ships pause, as if considering their prey. He felt as though those distant shapes were staring directly at him. The silence cracked at last. Not with words, but with light. One human ship powered its weapons, beams glowing brighter than the stars. The others followed. The void lit up with silent fire. Each ship a piece of a deadly puzzle clicking into place. The alien commanders shouted orders, their confidence breaking. Into panic, hold the lines, ready all batteries. But even as their fleets prepared, one truth had already settled into every mind. The humans had not come to beg for peace. They had not come to hide behind numbers. They had come to fight. And as the first human weapons fired, streaking across the void with blinding brilliance, the aliens realized what their horror truly was. They were not watching the beginning of a battle. They were watching the beginning of their defeat. The first flashes of light tore across the void, and the war began. Alien ships unleashed a storm of fire, beams cutting through space in long glowing arcs. Explosions rippled like suns being born, and the battlefield became a sea of chaos. The aliens roared with triumph as their weapons struck, believing the humans would scatter under the fury of their numbers. But the humans did not scatter. Their ships twisted through the barrage with terrifying precision. Where alien fire rained down, the human vessels slid aside as if they had known where the shots would land before they were fired. They moved like predators weaving through a trap they had already studied, their patterns sharp and unpredictable. Commanders shouted, voices cracking with disbelief. How do they move like this? Hold formation. Block them. But blocking was impossible. The humans did not fight like prey. They cut through the armada like blades through cloth. One alien officer froze at his console, watching as an entire squadron of their ships was erased in seconds. Human weapons were not elegant. They were brutal, raw, made for one purpose only, to kill. Each blast struck with merciless accuracy, tearing ships apart until nothing remained but wreckage drifting. In silence, panic spread. Alien generals barked louder, desperate to restore control. They are only a few. Overwhelm them, yet each attempt collapsed. The humans never stayed where expected. They attacked from impossible angles, striking weak points the aliens had never considered vulnerable. The young soldier on the observation deck gripped the railing until his claws bled. He could not look away. He had seen war before, but nothing like this. This was not a battle. This was a storm wearing the shape of ships. A massive alien dreadnought fired its main cannon, a blast capable of splitting moons. For a heartbeat, silence followed the strike. Surely, nothing could survive. But then the humans answered. A smaller vessel darted through the fading glow, its engines flaring white-hot. It fired a single shot. The dreadnought shuddered, cracked, and then split apart in a chain of explosions that lit the void brighter than any star. The silence on the alien bridge was louder than the blast itself. Fear took root in every heart. On the ground below, alien soldiers tilted their heads to the skies. They had cheered when the battle began, but now their voices faltered. The glow above told a different story. Their armada, vast and proud, was being torn apart piece by piece. Children clutched their parents as the heavens burned. Inside the fleet's council chamber, arguments turned to shouts. This cannot be possible, one general hissed. We outnumber them. We outgun them. Another slammed his fist against the table. Numbers mean nothing if the enemy does not break, and humans do not break. The words sent chills down the room. None dared to deny it. The humans pressed forward, their fleet cutting deep into the armada. They did not pause, did not hesitate, did not waste a single strike. Every move was precise, as if the battlefield was a puzzle only they knew how to solve. Alien pilots screamed over comes as human ships appeared where none should be. A squadron attempted to retreat, only to find themselves ambushed by vessels that had circled silently behind them. They begged for reinforcements, but their voices were cut short by the roar of explosions. The young soldier's chest heaved as he watched. His commander barked at him to stand firm, but the soldier's mind spun with dread. He understood now why older officers whispered warnings about Deathworlders. Humans did not fight wars the way other species did. They did not fight for glory, or pride, or conquest. They fought like survival itself was etched into their blood. The battle raged on, but the outcome was already shifting. The aliens had come expecting to crush humanity with sheer power. Instead, they were the ones being crushed. Ship after ship fell, until the armada that once filled the stars looked broken, scattered, bleeding into space. A strange quiet settled over the alien command deck, even as explosions filled the void. The officers moved with frantic energy, but no one dared to speak the truth out loud. The humans were not just winning, they were teaching the galaxy what it meant to face Deathworlders in battle. For the first time, alien leaders saw clearly what they had unleashed. They had wanted to watch humans fight. They had wanted to test them, and now they watched in horror as humans answered with the one thing they knew best, war without mercy. The young soldier whispered to himself, his voice trembling. They are not soldiers. They are storms. Outside the viewport, a human vessel cut through the wreckage of a burning cruiser, its weapons glowing like the eyes of a beast. Behind it, more followed, relentless and unyielding. The aliens could only watch, their confidence shattered. The battle was far from over, but one truth had already settled deep into every alien heart. The humans had entered the fight, and the galaxy would never see war the same way again. The battlefield burned across the stars, but the storm was only growing. Alien ships broke formation, scattering as human vessels pressed deeper into their lines. What began as a calculated battle now looked like slaughter. The armada that once filled the void with confidence was shrinking, ship by ship, fire by fire. Inside alien command decks, chaos ruled. Officers shouted over one another, screens filled with red warnings, entire sectors of the fleet going dark. Generals barked orders, to regroup, to strike back, but their voices shook. It was not just defeat they feared. It was the way the humans fought. They were not reckless, nor were they careful. They were inevitable, like a tide that refused to stop. The aliens had always believed numbers would decide wars. More ships, more soldiers, more weapons. Yet now they watched as fewer human ships carved through their lines as if numbers meant nothing. Every maneuver cut deeper, every strike left scars too wide to close. On one bridge, a commander gripped the railing until his claws cracked. He had fought in a dozen wars, survived battles that had broken other fleets. Yet this felt different. The humans fought as if they had studied pain itself and turned it into a weapon. His second officer leaned close, whispering words the commander dreaded. "We are not fighting an army, we are fighting survival." The humans did not celebrate their victories. They did not roar in triumph or pause to boast. They moved with silence, their ships gliding like predators through bloodied waters. Every time an alien vessel exploded, the humans were already preparing for the next strike. Their calmness was worse than rage. Rage could be understood, silence could not. From the surface of the planet below, alien soldiers and civilians alike stared upward. The sky was alive with burning wreckage, debris falling like stars gone mad. At first they had cheered when their fleet opened fire. Now their voices were gone. They watched in horror as their protectors turned into scattered wrecks while the human fleet grew closer, their weapons burning brighter. The battle shifted again. Human transports broke away from the main formation, streaking down into the atmosphere. The aliens gasped. It was not enough that humanity dominated the skies. Now they were descending to the ground. Alien generals panicked, blocked them, stopped their landing, but their words came too late. Human dropships cut through anti-air fire, twisting like sparks in the wind. Where one was struck, two more broke through. The ground itself trembled as the first Deathworlder boots touched soil. Alien soldiers gathered in the ruined streets, weapons clutched tight. They had been told humans were fragile, soft-bodied creatures who would fall quickly in close combat, but when the first human squad appeared through the smoke, all those lies shattered. The humans moved in tight formation, their armor scarred yet unbroken, their weapons roaring like thunder. They advanced through enemy fire with a rhythm that seemed unstoppable, every step measured, every strike brutal. Alien soldiers fired desperately, their screams filling the streets, but the humans did not falter. Bullets cracked against their armor, explosions lit the rubble. Yet still they came. From rooftops and bunkers, alien commanders watched with dread. These were not soldiers born in safety. These were warriors shaped by a world that tried to kill them every day. Their bodies bent but did not break. Their minds adapted faster than any plan. Where one fell, another rose, more determined, more furious. The young alien soldier on the observation deck of the flagship watched his screens in disbelief. Reports from the ground filled the channel. "They're pushing us back. We can't hold the line. They don't stop." Each voice carried terror. Each voice ended in static. In the fleet's council chamber, the leaders of the invasion sat in silence. Their grand plans, their overwhelming power, their dreams of crushing humanity, all of it was unraveling before their eyes. One elder, his face pale, whispered the truth that none wanted to hear. "We thought this would be a battle. It is not. It is a lesson. And the lesson is that humans do not lose." On the surface, alien soldiers broke ranks, retreating into the ruins. They had faced enemies before, but never like this. Humanity fought with something more than weapons. They fought with will. Every step forward carried centuries of survival. Every shot a promise that they would never bow. In the sky, the human fleet tightened its hold. Alien ships tried to flee, engines burning bright as they broke away. But the humans hunted even in retreat. No ship was allowed to escape without scars. Those that fled carried with them the same horror etched into their memories. The vision of humans in battle. The young alien soldier whispered, voice trembling, "We wanted to see them fight. Now we know, and I wish we had never asked." The battlefield glowed with fire. The planet shook under the weight of war, and the galaxy itself seemed to pause. Humanity had entered the fight, and their enemies now understood the cost. This was no ordinary battle. This was revelation, and revelation burned brighter than any weapon. The ground quaked under the weight of war. Smoke rose in thick black columns, spreading across the horizon until the sun itself looked red and sick. Alien soldiers filled the ruined streets, weapons in hand, armor dented and scorched from the first clashes. They had prepared for this moment with drills, speeches, and promises of easy victory. But all those promises crumbled the instant the humans set foot on the battlefield. The first squads emerged from the dropships like shadows given form. Their armor was scarred, not polished, marked with the history of battles fought and survived. Their boots struck the earth in heavy rhythm, steady and unshaken. They did not march with pride, they marched with purpose. Their silence was heavier than any war cry. Alien commanders shouted for their soldiers to fire. Blasts lit the air, bullets tore through walls, grenades shook the rubble, but the humans pressed forward. Shields absorbed fire, armor burned yet held, and every weapon in their hands answered with thunder. One alien officer raised his binoculars and froze. Humans did not dive for cover the way others did. They advanced. Every step was measured, every shot calculated. When a wall blocked their path, they tore it down. When traps exploded beneath them, they endured the blast and kept moving. It was not just resilience, it was defiance. In the heart of the city, an alien tank rolled forward, its cannon firing a beam strong enough to cut a building in half. Dust and fire filled the street. For a moment, the aliens cheered. Then the smoke cleared, and through the haze walked a single human soldier. His armor was scorched, his weapon glowing hot, but he was alive. He raised his launcher and fired once. The tank erupted into flame, metal splitting like paper. The cheers of the aliens turned into stunned silence. The young alien soldier, watching from the rubble of a collapsed outpost, felt his throat tighten. His comrades had told him humans were fragile, that their bodies were weak, their spirits softer than the hardened species of the galaxy. But what he saw now was no fragility. It was fury wrapped in flesh. Every street became a proving ground. Humans fought with coordination so tight it looked instinctive. One squad laid suppressing fire while another moved forward. Snipers found perches in the ruins, their shots dropping alien soldiers before they even realized they were targets. Medics dragged the wounded back, patching them quickly before sending them again into the fire. Nothing stopped the cycle. The aliens tried to regroup. Commanders screamed intercoms, ordering counterattacks, rallying squads, deploying heavier machines. But the humans adapted faster than orders could be given. When heavy armor rolled forward, humans swarmed it, climbing onto the machines, tearing open hatches, and tossing grenades inside. When ambushes were set, humans flanked with speed that defied logic. Every tactic was answered, every trick turned useless. From rooftops, alien scouts stared down in disbelief. They fight like they've done this 1,000 times, one muttered. His commander answered with a hollow voice. Because they have. For generations, humanity had lived on a world that demanded struggle every day. To aliens, war was an event, something trained for and feared. To humans, war was memory, war was inheritance. Survival itself had been their teacher. Alien soldiers began to falter. Some dropped weapons, some fled into the ruins, hoping distance would save them. But the humans did not allow escape. They pushed forward without pause, relentless, unyielding. Their eyes were hidden behind visors, their voices muffled by coms, but their presence radiated one truth. There would be no retreat for their enemies in one plaza. An alien battalion made its last stand. Hundreds of soldiers braced themselves, cannons lined in rows, banners still flying. Their commander shouted a final speech, promising victory or honorable death. The ground shook as the humans approached. When the battle began, it was not a clash, it was an ending. Explosions ripped through the plaza. Human fire tore through armor, shattered weapons, and silenced voices. The commander's banner fell, burning. Within minutes, the battalion was gone. Where once stood hundreds, only smoke and silence remained. The young alien soldier in the ruins pressed his head into his hands. His people had wanted to see humans fight, to measure their strength. Now he understood why the galaxy whispered the word Deathworlders with fear. Watching them fight was like watching a storm descend on a fragile city. No wall could stop it, no defense could withstand it. Above, the human fleet still ruled the skies. Their ships cut down every escape attempt, their guns roaring without pause. The planet was sealed, the battle hopeless, yet the humans did not cheer. They did not gloat. They did not shout their victory into the air. They simply advanced, step after step, until nothing stood against them. Their silence remained, heavy and terrifying. On the alien command channel, broken voices cried out, "We cannot hold. They are everywhere." They static swallowed the rest. The young soldier whispered to himself, trembling, "We thought we were the hunters, but we are the prey." And for the first time, the aliens watching from across the galaxy understood why even the bravest civilizations feared humanity's rage. This was not war. This was revelation. Smoke clung to the sky like a second skin, turning daylight into a dim red haze. Cities that had once stood tall were now broken teeth jutting out of the earth. The battlefield was quieter now, though not silent. Occasional blasts echoed in the distance, screams cut short, and the rumble of human armor still rolled through the ruins. The invaders were shattered, their armies scattered, their fleets broken. Yet victory did not feel like victory to those who had come to conquer. Alien leaders watched from command bunkers deep beneath the ground. Holographic maps, once bright with their own forces, now bled with red markers. Every sector lost, every stronghold consumed. Generals argued, their voices rising with panic. "We must retreat while we can," one cried. Another slammed his clawed hand against the table. "Retreat, and leave the galaxy to believe we are cowards. No, we stand." But even as he spoke, his voice cracked with fear. No one admitted the truth aloud, but all of them felt it. This was no longer a battle. It was a nightmare unfolding before their eyes. Reports poured in, each one worse than the last. Squads wiped out in minutes. Armored columns reduced to ash. Soldiers refusing to fight, dropping weapons, running into the ruins like hunted prey. Against any other enemy, these failures would have been punished. Against humans, they were expected. The bunker lights flickered as another tremor shook the ground. The youngest officer at the table whispered what many already feared. "They aren't just winning, they are teaching us." Heads turned sharply, angered by his words, but none denied them. Above ground, alien survivors huddled together in basements and shattered towers they had prayed their armies would hold. They had prayed their fleets would return. But now, through cracks in the walls, they saw human soldiers patrolling streets once owned by them. Tall, armored figures moved with machine-like precision, their weapons glowing faintly in the haze. They said nothing, offered no comfort, gave no sign of mercy. They were not saviors. They were shadows cast by war itself. A mother clutched her child tightly, watching through the broken glass as a squad of humans passed. The child whispered, "Will they kill us?" The mother could not answer. She had no answer. Elsewhere, a group of alien soldiers, trapped in a half-collapsed building, argued among themselves. One pounded his fist against the wall. "They bleed like us, they die like us, why do they keep coming?" Another soldier shook his head, eyes hollow. "Because they do not fear death. They've lived with it since the beginning." The words silenced the group. Deep down they knew it was true. The human advance did not slow. Block by block, they moved. The ground seemed to yield to them, as though the planet itself recognized their claim. Every time resistance flared, it was smothered swiftly, without hesitation. There were no wasted shots, no wasted movements. Each human fought as if guided by some unseen instinct. The alien leaders' panic grew. Their communications with distant fleets revealed whispers spreading across the stars. Other species had heard of the battle. Other species were watching. And the story that traveled fastest was not about the alien armada, nor about the scale of the war. It was about humans. About Deathworlders, about the monsters who had turned battle into revelation. The elder in the bunker, silent until now, finally spoke. His voice was low, heavy, certain. "We thought to break them. Instead we have shown the galaxy what they are, and we have shown it in fire." His words sank into every heart. They had wanted to display power, to prove their dominance over humans. Instead, they had handed humanity the stage and given them the chance to reveal themselves in strength. On the surface, alien soldiers continued to break. Some raised their hands in surrender, only to find the humans did not slow. Others fled into tunnels and sewers, chased by the thunder of boots. The streets became graveyards, the ruins echoing with the sound of inevitability. The young alien soldier who had once prayed for the humans not to come now crouched in a burned-out shelter. His hands shook, his uniform torn. He had fired until his weapon overheated, shouted until his voice broke. Now he stared through the smoke at a single human walking across the rubble. The soldier's armor was cracked, his rifle scorched, but his pace never faltered. He looked less like a man and more like a force of nature wearing metal. The young alien's breath caught. He finally understood why the elders had whispered warnings. These were not soldiers in the way his people understood. The words, they were something older, something harder. Deathworlders. In the galaxy's distant systems, messages spread. Some called humanity monsters, others called them saviors. All agreed on one truth. When humans entered battle, they changed everything. In the bunker, the leaders sat in silence as explosions echoed above. None spoke of victory anymore. None even spoke of survival. They simply listened to the sound of their armies being erased, their pride collapsing into dust. The elder closed his eyes. We thought we were teaching them fear. Instead, we are the ones learning. And outside, the humans pressed forward, their silence as heavy as the weight of worlds. The war was over, though the battlefield did not know it yet. Smoke still rose from shattered towers, fires still crackled in the ruins, and the echoes of distant gunfire lingered in the air like ghosts refusing to leave. The alien armies had been broken, their fleet scattered to the far edges of space. What remained on the ground were pockets of survivors, too few to fight, too frightened to resist. The humans stood among the ruins, silent as always. Their armor was battered and scarred, weapons blackened by fire, but their formation never wavered. They moved through the broken city like shadows of steel, checking corners, clearing streets, and leaving nothing behind them but silence. Alien civilians peeked out from basements and shattered shelters. Their eyes were wide, their breaths shallow. They had once prayed for their soldiers to protect them, for their fleets to secure their skies. Now they saw humans walking their streets, and the prayers died on their lips. Gratitude warred with terror in their hearts. These beings had destroyed the invaders, yes, but they had done so with such merciless precision that no one could believe it was kindness. On one rooftop, a child pointed toward the human squads below. "They don't look tired," she whispered to her father. "How can they not be tired?" The father pulled her close, unable to answer. He had seen soldiers break after hours of battle. Yet these humans had fought for days, and still they moved with the steady rhythm of inevitability. In the shattered council bunker, the alien leaders sat in silence. Their arguments were gone, their voices hollow. They had once debated strategy, victory, and honor. Now they debated nothing at all. Maps that once glowed with markers of strength were blank, filled only with the red of defeat. One elder spoke. "At last, it is done. We are finished." Another raised his head, bitterness in his eyes. "No, it is worse than that. We are remembered." The words cut through the room. Losing a battle was shameful, but being remembered for failing against Deathworlders would echo through the galaxy forever. Other species would hear, other worlds would whisper, and the story they told would not be of an alien armada, it would be of humans. Across the galaxy, transmissions carried the tale. Smugglers repeated it in hushed tones in backwater stations. Traders whispered it while loading their ships. Leaders of distant civilizations listened in silence, their faces pale. They had always known humans were dangerous. Now they knew they were unstoppable. Back on the battlefield, the young alien soldier who had once prayed for humans not to come, staggered through the ruins. His weapon was gone, his armor cracked. He stopped when he saw them, a line of humans marching past, their visors glinting in the firelight. He froze, expecting death. But the humans did not turn their weapons on him, they simply passed, their silence heavier than any threat. He sank to his knees, trembling. Survival felt less like mercy and more like judgment. In the streets, alien families emerged cautiously, staring at the humans who now walked among them. Some whispered thanks, though none of the humans responded. Their silence was unbroken, their eyes hidden. It was impossible to know whether they were protectors or conquerors. Above, the human fleet still filled the skies. Enormous vessels hovered like mountains of steel, blotting out the stars. Engines glowed faintly, their hum echoing through the atmosphere. The message was clear: this planet now lay beneath their shadow. And then, slowly, the ships began to rise. One by one, they pulled away from the atmosphere, their engines blazing trails of fire into the dark. The ground rumbled as they climbed higher, leaving the ruins behind. Civilians and soldiers alike stared upward, awe and terror mixing in their eyes. On the horizon, the last ship broke free of the atmosphere, vanishing into the black of space. The sky grew still again. For the first time in weeks, there was no sound of engines, no thunder of weapons, no storm of battle, only silence. But the silence did not bring peace. It brought memory. The aliens would remember how their fleets had shattered, how their soldiers had fallen, how their leaders had sat helpless as humanity revealed its true nature. They would remember the way humans moved, relentless and unyielding, the way they fought as if survival itself had shaped their every step. Most of all, they would remember the horror, not just of losing, but of realizing what humans truly were. The elder's words in the bunker echoed into the future. We are remembered, and it was true. The galaxy would not forget. When other worlds spoke of strength, they would speak of humans. When other species whispered of terror, they would whisper of Deathworlders. The young alien soldier, still kneeling in the ruins, lifted his head and whispered into the smoke-filled air. "We wanted to see them fight. Now we know, and it will haunt us forever." The fires of war dimmed slowly, leaving the world scarred and broken, but the story had already left this planet, carried into the stars. A story of silence, of fury, of humanity revealed. The title of that story was whispered across every every relay, every world that dared to listen. Aliens watched in horror as humans entered battle, and the galaxy would never be the same again.